I'm Kishshana Palmer, CEO and founder of Kishshana & Co. I'm a coach, a facilitator, and a trainer, and I help career professionals and entrepreneurs like you grow. Grow your skills, grow your teams, and grow your revenue. Welcome to the Secret Lives of Leaders. This is where I am going to be taking a completely new approach to looking at topics in leadership and management in our sector today. I'm going to be taking a fresh look at the classics, and also I'm going to be peeling back the curtain on some topics that we just don't talk about enough. Over the next few weeks, I'll be interviewing some amazing subject matter experts and thought leaders, reviewing some pretty cool books and articles, and I'll even be wagging my finger and giving the total side eye to folks in our industry and our sector who aren't talking about the things we should be talking about enough. And I want you in on the conversation. So go to thesecretlivesofleaders.com or follow me on LinkedIn. You can find me at Kishshana Palmer. And I look forward to seeing you. Enjoy. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Secret Lives of Leaders. I am Kishshana Palmer. I am CEO and founder of Kishshana & Co., and I help career professionals and entrepreneurs grow in their businesses, grow their skills, and grow their revenue. I help you get focused, y'all. And today, I am so excited to have my friend, Ron Rapatalo, on my lunchtime hangout. Welcome, Ron.
What's going on, Kishshana? It's
Yes,
good
did you do it up? Yes, I'm here for it. Yes.
You know, I didn't chew. We're chatting. I did chew before this. So.
Oh, you did, right. Exactly. I did too. Although I want to say, y'all, my chew is sort of like liquid. This is my life right now. What are you doing? You see?
Water bottle.
Come on now. Here we are.
Let's talk a lot, you know.
Exactly. You got to be like drinking. Exactly right. So, for folks who are watching this, I hope you are either watching this on your lunch hour or listening to this on your commute to or from your office. And so I decided to do this series, because I just think it's really important for us to stop, tipping around all of the issues of leadership and management that we are grappling with. And I wanted to bring in experts, thought leaders who are no holds barred, will tell you the truth, want to see you grow, and really have a unique perspective to share. And Ron is what I would call a talent shepherd. Okay, y'all? Not a headhunter, gross. Not a recruiter, too simple. But absolutely will take me and all of the other sheep and get us where we need to go, and do that so that you feel empowered and you feel ready and you feel like you have been well aligned with the company organization that you are ready to join. And so I'm so excited for him to be hanging out with me today. So, Ron.
Yes.
They let you out to play today, I see.
They did. You know, I'm usually in like a tank top and other clothes working from home. I had to put on my nice shirt today. So
it's very nice. It's very nice. I like it. I like it a lot. So, I have some questions for you, Ron.
I got answers.
Do you know how did we meet? Can you remember?
So my guess is, I don't remember the exact timing, if we connected via LinkedIn first, then met through Efi. I believe that we started talking through Efi Offer Walker, who's like all things like incredible searches. I have a incredible professional crush on her because she does everything around how to think about search, especially through a very strong social justice and equity lens.
Absolutely.
So we met at least formally through her, but if I were to check my LinkedIn connection history, I bet I probably added you before.
Yes.
When we met.
I bet so. I think that's about what I've got it.
Like this.
Right. You're like, hey, and I'm like, who is this guy? Ooh, he's awesome. Ooh. What attracted me to you is just, first of all, you just jump out even through email, like your energy and your warmth. And I always say, like, these words don't have any feelings. But all my marketers and communicators, especially my written communicators, would say, actually, words do have feelings. And so you're just like one of the most genuine people I know on earth. And so it's so exciting that like you get to connect with so many amazing professionals who just like, they need someone to help sort of guide them through what could be like a super scary or super anxious or super awesome search process. Like that's really, really important. Oftentimes I know I felt as a candidate like I was just going it alone and just out here on my own, just thugging it out. And so for you to be able to be that person that helps folks figure it out and get there, it's like so, so amazing. So, you know, as adults, Ron, we don't get along with everybody. You know this, right? It's true.
You know, sometimes you got to smile at folks even when you don't get along with them, but you got to, you know, that is true.
It's very true. So how did you know that we go together? Because, you know, everybody cannot be our friends. Like, that's just what it is.
We laughed a lot. That's a huge bar for me in a conversation, right? For laughing. Because I think that builds trust faster where you can laugh over things and not take yourself seriously. Obviously, I think both you and I take our work, lots of things seriously, but I think we don't take ourselves seriously. I mean, I bet we can probably do, you know, 2 dope king and queen, you know, and give
so good
partner a run for their money.
Yes.
I respect Jessica Williams and, you know,
love her podcast, but like, but yes, but true. Okay. Totally could do it.
I just, that means a lot. And, you know, when we were laughing so much over the phone and keying and just building trust and being really honest really fast, it's something, you know, Adam Grant posted something recently. I have a professional crush on him too. You,
oh my gosh.
Wharton professor, talking about in order to build trust, you got to give a little of yourself. You know, people say in development fundraising, you got to give to get. Trust is the same way.
Yes.
So I think we innately give in order to build trust faster. And I think that's why we had such good rapport.
Absolutely. And everybody doesn't do that though. I've noticed that there is, I know for me, especially professionally, I was taught very early on, you have to go to work and you have to do the job and you have to do it exceptionally well. But there was nothing that really gave me the mantra, the go ahead, the one liner that says you have to actually give of yourself too a little bit. Like people have to actually like you.
Yeah, I learned that really early on in my professional career, you know, when my NYU student worker job turned into my first full-time job.
Yes, so awesome.
Honestly, a lot, aside from working really hard and picking up what the work was as a student worker, I was well-liked. Mm-hmm. Everywhere I've ever been professionally, although I do know that people don't like me, I'm not going to name names.
Don't name it, not today. We could.
No Andy Cohen here. No. Andy Cohen's here, I might have to spell a name or two. Different show.
There's no TV out there.
Different show, right? I don't want no tweets at the bottom like, oh,
at all. Like, why they talking all that business?
But I learned really early on that when people like you, you get better work projects. You can get more into conversations. People trust you faster. So the one place I worked the longest professionally, new leaders, that was my reputation. I will tell you, Kishshana, even people who I didn't like would tell me like, you know, Ron, I really like you. And then in my head, I'd be playing this like, I don't really like you. But then I respect you so much because you're willing to have conversations where we don't agree and you're willing to sit down and just listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people pay lip service to that, right? It's easier said than done, but I think I come at it from a viewpoint of, I don't know all the answers, one, and two, if that's going to block our work, I want to solve it. And so sometimes solving work problems, I mean, this is high fits, right? You know, you got to get at people's values and beliefs. I would argue technical fixes are the easiest thing on the planet in our work.
Preach on that one.
Boom!
I mean, look, we are 3 minutes in, he's like, first bomb drop. Just want to let you know. Let's go. It's easy to fix technical problems, but this stuff.
Try not to have people's head explode during our combo. But no, it's, you know, I always like to joke around folks that when I am giving coaching advice, that everything I'm telling you, you likely can Google. There are people infinitely smarter than I am. What I'm really good at doing is being able to get under the hood of people's values and beliefs and what might be holding them back.
Yes. Calling
those things out well and respectfully. I had a conversation with some very, very successful instructional leader, right?
Yeah.
Dug underneath the hood about things that were holding her back, but also at the same time, applauding her for things that she was doing well.
That's the key. You have to be able to have that balance, you know? I think one of the things that I learned really early on was we talk about like that good feedback sandwich. It applies to so many situations. And I described it, I did a talk recently and I described it to folk like an ice cream sandwich, you know, with a good cookie. So it's like a little crispy, but a little doughy on the top. Gotta have that
We're gonna have to take a break. I want an ice cream sandwich right now.
Then you gotta get that nice middle, and the middle doesn't have to mean that doesn't mean that you are tiptoeing around the feedback you've got to give. It means that you have layered it in such a way that folks are ready for the bite. So when
don't put artificial vanilla in my ice cream.
You better not.
I still want good, well-made, organic ingredients in my ice cream.
Thank you very kindly.
Salted caramel,
no BS in the feedback, right?
Of course.
But you just have that magic touch. Like, that's what it is. Like, I feel like you would tell me, Kishshana, today is not going to be a good day for you because here are the 9 things that need to be changed. And I'd be like, okay, that sounds just fine. I'm so glad you shared that. Because I'd be like, well, Ron said it. So
but I would never tell you 9 things at once. That's
no,
like,
you would never know. It's going to keep coming back and beat me over the head. And today, one more thing.
Yeah, I was going to make an inappropriate joke. I was like, wait, this is going to be on YouTube or other places. Hold on. There was a little birdie on me. Don't make that joke. I'm gonna get in such trouble if I make that joke. Not being recorded, I would have made
that. Would be the one that would go viral. They'd be like, how does leadership go viral? What are they talking about? They're talking about. Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
But I similar to you, right? When you're giving people feedback, it comes from a place you have to feel deep in your heart that you care about that person across the other side of you.
Totally.
I mean, care, respect, love, even if they're going through things you don't necessarily agree with.
Totally.
Even if they're going through things that you wouldn't necessarily have done in your head, even though I would argue everything's contextual.
Yes.
If we're living in The Walking Dead, we would all do things we would not want to do.
Absolutely.
Civilized society, right?
That's that, like, I don't know if I could live in The Walking Dead. Like, let's be honest. Like, if I had to live with that, like, perpetual back against the wall, always fight or flight, survival mode 24/7, that'll make you do some really crazy things.
Well, look at Rick. I mean, that origin story is fascinating, right? You look at someone, or my boy, Stephen Yuen. May rest in peace on that show. My God, he turns from like this, very quiet, just non-courageous delivery boy. And he's bad ass on that.
Totally. Oh my gosh. And if you guys have not watched that, I need y'all to just type Walking Dead.
Leadership lessons left and right on that show too. That's for another
day. Because you and I just saw this the other day too, I was like, I need to start teaching some sessions on how to use reality TV and series TV to teach leadership concepts, because folk are getting glassy eyed with all of the like rubrics and frameworks, which are effective when you understand how to use them. But let's face it, most of us are not paying attention. But can I just say, like, you just brought up the biggest point, the craziest point to me about like just that fight or flight in Walking Dead. Like, a lot of professionals are living that life every day.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
the season like that.
About to bite them, but there's a deep fear of not feeling like they belong, a deep fear of their manager may let them go, that the organization is not going to be around in a year or two, or is going to have budget cuts, right? I mean, certainly, I think the sectors that I know extremely well nationally, K-12 ed and nonprofit, it's a slow death, right? We know for every other good research study that I've read that stress kills, right? That kind of stress at the workplace, doing 3 jobs, right? Having a manager that's not supporting. How many times have you read in job descriptions? Well, we would prefer someone that requires minimal guidance.
And you're like,
who says that?
Who does that? And it's crazy. Like, I am a hands-on manager in that I want my people to succeed. And success for me does not stop with how well you meet goals in our organization. I take pride in the fact that many, many of my former direct reports are directors, senior directors, VPs in other organizations now. Yeah. And they started out with me. That means foundationally, I put in that work. So this idea, you want to be a self-starter who doesn't need any direction, you can just figure things out. How do you learn?
Well, there's a hero mentality in our sector. And then the hero mentality when gone amok. Nugget 2, martyr syndrome in our sector.
Nugget 2, y'all. Talk about it. Let's go, because you already dropped it. Let's go.
I think so big up myself.
Big it up.
Add me on LinkedIn. I do daily ronderings.
They're so awesome. I want to, like, I have like copied and pasted whole hog. The ronderings, like, I will ask Ron if I could use this one sentence in his whole rondering because it's so awesome.
Make it happen. But martyrdom is something that I find in our sector in spades, because the very thing that makes us powerful in the sector, our passion to impact the communities that we serve, is very much the thing that pushes us to do work beyond our limits.
Yes.
Right? That principal that passed away at her desk in Australia, right?
Oh my
That's
gosh.
making the principal rounds, right? If there's any like particular job that I think I know well, though, I will say in full transparency, I've never physically worked in a school myself nor taught. However, I do know thousands of principals, literally.
Yeah, you know, literally thousands.
Yeah.
Like, not again. That's
my LinkedIn. But you type in principal.
Like a dramatization, Kishshana style. Ron says it. It's like, no, really, actually, several thousand. You know, but yes.
Humble brag.
I just want to say, I could be in the fan club as I am in the front row. Thank you.
So what's so fascinating about talking to principals is, you know, this whole idea of they care so much for kids, yet the work, there's so much to do, right? And I read this really good article recently about how when principals start setting boundaries for themselves, and this is the dorky work that happens in any good org where there's good leadership, systems, structures, and processes set us free. Turnaround schools, big orgs.
Systems, structures, processes will set you free.
And I have to say, as someone who does not think well in that space all the time, everyone in my life that I love and respect does those things well.
That's that complimentary aspect that you have got to have.
Because I'm like my dad, may he rest in peace. My dad was life of the party. People love being around him, right? He set it off, the energy maker, energy creator. That's what I'm really good at, right? And being able to tap into people. You don't hire Ron Rapatalo. It's like, Ron, can you create a system for recruitment and selection? I'm like, I could. But I could think of 35 people at least who are better at that than me. It's painful for me to create. Now, you want me to go get talented people that are quietly looking or actively looking because of my network of trust?
That I will do.
I'm going to call out because it's going to show up on YouTube. I have no problem with being on video. I'm best in world in that.
Oh my gosh. I co-sign completely. Done. I co-sign completely. If my word means anything to y'all. I co-sign completely. No, but for real.
YouTube views 5. Who's this dude? Who is he?
I'm always like, I don't aspire to fame, Ron. I promise you I don't. But I have this like deep, like, you know, you just have these stirrings about what your life is supposed to be. And I was like, one day, I've had these dreams over and over again. I was like, one day I see myself on these really massive stages. There's thousands and thousands of people. Who is there has not quite come into crystallization, but it's happening. And I keep thinking to myself, I'm slightly snarky, y'all, on the low. Like, all of you folks who ignored me at the beginning, when all I wanted you to do was welcome me. No, but I was
seriously, like, you know, that third nugget bomb, what you intend, you manifest.
That's it.
Right. I do believe a lot in the power of spending time in that dream space, feeling, seeing, tasting, imagining what that looks like. And that, I mean, I don't think Oprah's the first person to say this, but if you do the hard work, you're prepared, you let go of whatever result that you think that is.
Yeah.
It just may not happen the way you think it's supposed to happen. Right?
Exactly. Things hardly ever do.
In Western society, especially in our work, right? Letting go of the way that goals are going to happen is extremely hard. And I think the very people that end up running a lot of the orgs in our space, some of them, not all, right? Because there's some folks who are not control freaks, right? Which is actually bad. And there's some folks who are super control freaks, which is also bad, right? You can't control every single thing that goes on.
And your hands cannot be in every jar. Just can't.
Right? And I think it's indicative of orgs. Like, I think when we put ourselves, this is more of a societal observation of how we value education, how we value nonprofits, right? That we are the ones in these sectors who disproportionately have to do Herculean jobs with fewer resources. This is an expectation of, I'm gonna use a baseball analogy. Ron, you gonna pitch against Aaron Judge with a wiffle ball and a paper glove. Like, what?
Make it good.
Why would you do that?
We're counting on you. Make it good.
It just, I have huge problems about what we truly value in society and how we're expected to do the work when everyone, barring few exceptions, says, well, this is the most, arguably some of the most valuable work that's happening in our society.
Absolutely.
Teaching kids, impacting and empowering vulnerable communities. These are the same kinds of things where it's like, but you're expected to do it like with 3 people.
Right.
With
and some paper
$10 budget, it's just, it's.
Yeah. And coupons.
Boy.
Right. That's exactly right. So
I'm not even talking coupons get Whole Foods.
No. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. This coupons to the food pantry.
Right.
Okay. And the food pantry is free, y'all. Like, this is crazy. I think that's exactly right. So what do you feel like, given that, is your biggest pet peeve you're seeing right now in the sector?
The lack of talk on equity. I don't mind her. I'm from Brooklyn, so I think there's a lot of bullshit happening.
Look, I'm a Queens girl, and I will say bullshit in a minute. So, correct.
In organizations, whether CMOs, public school districts, nonprofits that serve communities that disproportionately affect Black and brown children, Black and brown low-income children, yet have no firm stance on diversity, equity, and belonging, and aren't doing the hard work to look themselves in the mirror. And this is especially call out white leaders. Right? I'm not saying that we as leaders of color don't need to do that work, because we're affected by
that work too. Yeah.
As much as anybody, right? And
I just wrote a piece about that. Yeah. Yeah. And my own struggle with like being a professional, a leader of color, and looking at resumes and being like, well, if I bring this one on and my hand is shaking, because if it doesn't work out, what does that mean for my cred and my and the whole community?
They're coming for, they're an HBCU, but they're not a name HBCU. Like,
right.
It's like, they're not that elite university. They're not the top 50.
Pedigree. That was a thing that blew my mind about 5 minutes of my career. I was like, I'm sorry, there's work for that? And I should have known that. I came out of investment banking, and I thought I was one of the lucky ones, lucky ones.
I talked about that with a buddy who lives in my apartment building. He's an SEO alum.
So am I.
Coaches, like tons of good folks come through SEO, right? Prep for Prep. I can name all the good programs like that, right? That support predominantly Black and brown children across our country. And this nugget number 5, and I posted about this in my Rondering yesterday. He tells the young college students he talks to, the workplace is not a meritocracy. That's myth number 1 I got to break for you. And they're like, what?
Right.
All this hard work I'm doing isn't going to get me the great job?
No.
No. Much more complex than that.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that even happens once we get in the workplace. Those of us that have come from elite institutions. I mean, I just saw an article, especially within the Asian Pacific American diaspora, right? Of which that's for another podcast.
Which we
no thoughts about that, right? Yes. But that there is a larger sense within the APA community that an elite institution and a degree will be a mitigator of bias and other things when you go through the workplace. Like that's the badge you need in order to get through the door and into leadership positions. And I think at least this is a judgment. The conscious people I'm talking to in the community get that that's never been the case, right? And I have an elite institution degree. I went to NYU. I get it. It's just, for me, it's a matter of like leverage at the end of the day, what you do with it, right? I know as many talented folks that went to non-name brand colleges and universities that are doing it and doing it well.
Exactly.
I represent Brooklyn, who was raised out in Queens.
Yes, come on.
I was like, when am I going to use that line?
Ron and Kish get together, okay?
You know?
See, that's our tag. I love that. But it's so true. And you know, I went to Bentley University, which if you stayed in New England, what? Anybody who starts at the middle of Connecticut, all the way up to Vermont and across, you know, down Rhode Island and everything, they're like, oh, Bentley, oh yeah, oh, that is, you learned there. They're like, oh, you're ready to work. They're like, oh, they train you there. Other places in the country, when I left college years ago, they were like, what school is that? Oh, you didn't go to and I was in SEO, and I'd have peers who were like, oh, you're not at Harvard? You didn't go to so-and-so? Yeah, it was like, and I'd be like, does that matter? Like, I mean, like, I didn't, because you know what I didn't get, Ron? I didn't get the hidden playbook. And that's something you know a lot about, like that lots of professionals don't have access to it. And so back to your earlier point about your pet peeve, when you're thinking about being able to be focused on equity and really walking the talk, even being able to name that out loud is a hard thing for folks to do. They're like, what book is that? What are you talking about? What hidden playbook? You know? And why do you feel like leaders don't want to have these conversations? What do you think is holding folks back? Is it because they don't care? Like, what's going on?
My sense is from talking to leaders, because look, I think, so I come at this from two angles, right? Yeah. Like, I think I understand my privilege, relatively speaking, versus other traditional historical Black and brown leaders. I do consider myself brown as a Filipino American, but by my name, by how I look, I'm considered a little safer. So admittedly, when I do talk to white leaders, I think they tend to be a little bit more upfront than me than if I were to look differently.
Okay, fair.
That's number one. That's God's, because I've seen it in action a lot. When I use, you know, my pedigree and I can talk a certain way, it allows me to hear certain things I don't think would ever get said in front of you or my other friends.
Fair.
Right? But the truth of the matter is, I think that for a lot of folks, there are, I think, a small number of folks who just really don't care in our sector, right? I don't actually think that's the majority. I actually think the majority is in the, if I really examine this, am I going to like what I see? So it's like, if you've got bad credit, you don't want to examine that, right? You're not going to ever look up your credit score, right? Or you don't ever look at the scale. You don't ever go to get a physical to look at your blood work because you're afraid of what you find out. Because when you find out what it is going on, I would argue, you know, if you have critical thinking skills,
do something about it.
Then what do you do about it, right?
Exactly.
It's like once you see the way our political process runs, gerrymandering, how much money infiltrates the way that politicians come into office, the way campaigns run. I got the game. I have friends who are in Congress, personally. Where, I mean, I went to pretty damn good high school where we pop them leaders out left and right. And so there's a game to that, right? Yeah, and I think folks don't understand that game of social capital and accessing it, right? It leaves behind the job. But, you know, with the equity point, I actually think leaders are really afraid of looking in the mirror and understanding deeply what's inside and having to deal with it, especially for many, many white leaders. That's not something that when you grow up white in America that you're expected to or ever have to examine deeply.
Absolutely.
Because when you're called out, it's like,
that's not me.
Because this isn't about like, yes, your parents own slaves. Like there are many white, quote unquote, white skin color folks in America whose parents or generations never owned slaves. They're recent immigrants to the country, second, third generation, right? But the fact of the matter is, whiteness infiltrates the way that you're perceived and treated in America. Think back to the old SNL skit with Eddie Murphy in the 80s.
Yes.
Where he went around, they put him in, like, he dressed up as a white man. He was he got into, like, secret restaurants. It was, I mean, it was such, it was satire, but I think as a person of color, when I watched it, I couldn't fully laugh because it hit with a lot of things I knew to be true.
So hard. Right?
You know, when you watch things like that, where it's like you half want to laugh, but you half want to go, oh my God, that's really what happens. It's awkward, right?
Yeah. And so I feel like in light of that, then, like, what do you think leaders should be talking about? Like, how do they come, if that's the conversation that we need to be having right now, then how do we get folks to have the conversation that's not fluffy, you know, and pillowy and billowy, but that
Yeah.
is real and that allows folks to be able to confront things head on and then feel charged and energized enough to do something about it. So use their privilege to do something about it.
You need folks, you need white leaders. I can think of someone like, I haven't met her, but Karen Fleshman does this work, you know, racy conversation across the country. Michelle Mollishor in our space, my friend Tali Germain holds these convos. There's tons of others, right? I mean, we need woke white folks. We need woke, you know, black and brown folks to be engaged in the work of creating the structures and safe spaces to come into orgs to do the work. Because I will tell you, I think when folks, I suspect will want to have these combos, but it's like saying, you ever watch on TLC, the 600-pound
Yes.
series, right?
Fascinating show.
To expect someone to do it on their own is asking for absolute Herculean effort and willpower that most of us do not have.
Yeah.
I think we have to be willing to tell ourselves, whether it's around equity work, whether it's around weight loss, whether it's around anything we're struggling with, that the whole idea of putting yourself up by the bootstraps and do it on your own is myth.
It's not
we're all very weak. But when put in the right structure, another article that I read, which was like a nugget bomb, right? Of, you know, the way, it was an article about the way they were building grit in kids is the exact wrong way. That when you're doubling down that it's about your willpower, when a lot of the research says willpower is awfully weak, but if you put kids in the right structure, there are 3 things that if you really want to build grit well, that tend to allow for grit to be built. Pride, compassion, and what was the third one? It was like, forgetting the third one.
It'll come to you.
Huh?
It'll come to you.
Yeah. But what resonated in the article with me is like, if you create a space by which someone is going to want to pay it forward to others and do things, you know, in the moment that feel good. It's like I remember reading this book about like the 6 stages of like eventually doing the right thing, right? That stage 6 is like you do things the right way because it's the right thing to do. But it's like there's 5 steps it takes to get there, right? And there's evolution. And to expect folks all of a sudden to say that based on you just willing it to happen, that you're going to, when you fall down, you get back up, is fallacy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right? But there's so many businesses and so many gurus that have built billion-dollar businesses on that idea.
Right.
So we've sort of bought into it. And so now here you come along saying, actually, that's foolishness. And we have new studies to back it. And folks are like, well, what about this other stuff?
Right.
You want to believe, oh, you can just do it yourself, or you can just figure that out. And then you see organizations doing that a lot. Like they're not actually going out to get consulting help. They're not actually taking the time to figure out like who actually can work with an organization to help us move the needle, right. You know?
Yeah. So I'm going to give it like a, you know, the one thing I was talking about with my buddy over lunch that I think feels like as much of a meritocracy than anything, working out. When you start running, when you start a spin class and you do it consistently, and I don't want to underestimate how you built the consistency, which is for another conversation, right? When you start doing that, you see gains in your body. That's meritocracy. You put in the work, you get gains. It may not be the gains you want. You may not lose weight, but you feel better. Do you breathe better? Do you look better? Are you tasting food better? Those are better measures of like why physical fitness matters than like how my body's going to look. Those things take time. They take nuance. We are also genetically and hereditarily different, that it takes different things for different people to get where they want. And the reality is you have to be willing to put in that kind of work. If you want to look like X body or be in X kind of shape, I want to look like The Rock. You know how much The Rock eats? You know how much The Rock works out? Do I want to do that? No.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you paid me $20 million a movie, I think I might.
You think you might be like, I'm going to the gym for the day.
I'm not in an industry where like you're expecting me like I want to be healthy because I like lifting my daughter. She's 35 something pounds, right? I like being able to run around with her. I like to be, I'm competitive, I like doing certain things, right? And so I think as it relates to like, yes, working out to meritocracy, but when you get help, personal trainer, fitness classes, people supporting you, good online chat forums or like Facebook groups, talk about what you do, right? I go to massage. I go to folks, my massage therapist understands movement really deeply.
Yeah.
He's also a movement specialist, right? And so I can't be fit on my own. My hard work at some point plateaus, right? So I think about the same thing with like equity work, right? You can do some of the work, but at the end of the day, it's going to plateau because you yourself just don't have it all to understand it. And
So true.
it's the kind of work I think you just have to do around people who come from different vantage points, who come from ways of understanding the world. You know, my favorite book in the space is Courageous Conversations About Race. It's a book I saw when I worked at New Leaders. We did a book study on it, and it's the one book. Anytime everyone says, I'm doing equity work or I'm about to, what book should I read? I'm like, that's the book.
Absolutely.
It's like
my stack now, but it's in my bag from when I travel. It's like dog hair. I travel with it everywhere. Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
But I think that's what we need to have a harder examination on. And where are senior leadership teams? Where are boards of directors? Where are, folks who sit on, school boards? Where are politicians going to say,
yeah,
this is the work to slowly but surely transform our society and understand that we have these structural inequities, right? But the way to attack structural inequities is by really first self-examination. You can't be a good leader of others if you don't understand yourself.
Okay.
So this is self-work, right?
But folks avoid it. Let's be honest. Like, we will run because it's uncomfortable, and then you have to do stuff, and then people have to hold you accountable, and then you feel like I have so much things, and you just put that off because everything else feels more important, or how important it is, or worse, you don't know.
Well, that's the thing, right? It doesn't feel like, I think there's good research that continues to emerge that when this work is done, it ends up being good for ROI. I hate to say in our industry, it's like just it is in the for-profit industry, it's about ROI.
Yeah.
Aetna is one of the companies I read about in New York Times on the fitness front. They've invested in, more gym spaces, letting their people work out, giving, gym benefits, Lyme for meditation, all these things. And their ROI is that, their healthcare deductibles and premiums are less as a result. Something like $900 per person.
Which is amazing times the tens of thousands of employees they have.
And so for me, I think we have to start, this is the way people examine, because I don't think, unfortunately, in our sector, right?
Yeah.
Feeling good about this isn't enough. I would argue that it is, right? I think this is where overcoming certain things about I get we have to measure things, right? But ultimately, I think if we start doing this work, we can start seeing how that changes, the way that we interact with people, retention in org, attracting more diverse talent, Black and brown leaders, especially in organizations that serve Black and brown communities, bringing in more funding. I think there's a number of things.
The ripple effect of things that start to happen when you start to you take that step and you take it with intention, and you take another step and you take that with intention. There's so many benefits that should start to Lego up, they're like the Legos that start to stack in place, and you have to be willing to take, it's not even the first step. It's the first of many small steps or big steps or a leap, Yeah.
I just think, this is an American society observation. We want things fast. Everything has to be
absolutely
right. And equity work is really like running an ultramarathon.
Yeah.
And we're not built that way, right? Through the structure of the way that school districts and CMOs and nonprofits are built, right? There's an impatience of, well, if you don't get a result in a year, maybe it's not what you should be doing.
Absolutely. I see that a lot with fundraising. They're like, there's an expectation that you should be able to raise $1 million in 12 months. And I'm like, oh, whose expectation is that? Relationships don't take longer.
Right.
The number of people I can count that met, fell in love, got married in 3 months, still together 20 years later, that's a small number of folks. You have to build relationships. You have to test the waters. You have to continue to refine the conversations and make sure people feel like they're co-creators in that story. Once in a while, yes, you can pull it out of your hat, particularly if things have been a brewing in the background. Right. But this idea that is sort of taking root, particularly in sort of the social venture space, that you're supposed to come in as a magician and voila, bring your contacts, make it happen. That is false. and it's not sustainable. Which is why you see a lot of organizations like, we've hit a plateau and we don't know what to do now. So now we're looking for more fairy dust and we're just going to go into the forest and find it. You know, so I think that I see that across, I see it in, you know, in fundraising and external affairs, and you see that across all of the roles.
Folks, you know, write job descriptions like they're it's almost like writing a manifesto. It's asinine in our space, right? You know, especially where you have bureaucracy and hierarchy. I mean, anything, a school district job description, those are the worst.
Their pages long.
Like, here's the 25 qualifications we want. It's almost like, let's just dump everything we ever thought about what someone could be and just put it in a document. It's, you know, I mean, this is old school stuff. This still happens in a lot of schools.
It still happens. I still pull apart job descriptions all the time when I talk to clients. I'm like, so talk to me about why these 3 things are actually going to be helpful as we're doing some coaching for your team. No one needs to know how to do that. Like, I don't get it. Does it even exist? Oh, it doesn't exist, but it'd be so nice. It'd be so nice should not be a part of the conversation right now. Like, that's not what we should be talking about.
Yeah, so some orgs in our space are starting to transform. Got to give props to Levada Berger, Transcend Education. Her job descriptions, from what I've seen, you know, because I asked her about, I was like telling her, she's like trying to tell a story to candidates. So
it's also a marketing tool.
Tells a story to position the role, right?
Correct. It's right. I'm like, this is a marketing tool. It's not like, you know, everybody should want to be a part of this too. I'm like, we're not.
Well, that's nugget. That's bomb number like 8. A lot of orgs think we are the bee's knees. Therefore, we're going to write it from our perspective, and you're going to opt into us, right? It's the dirty culture fit conversation.
Oh, culture fit, code word for bias. Okay.
Yeah, right. You gotta come to us in the way that we do things, right? I mean, I would argue, like, you know, I think about this in the world of sports, right? Yes, something like the Patriot way in football with the New England Patriots, I might argue feels like culture fit from everything I know about what I've read, the way that organization functions. I think there's a balance of, yes, there's a certain way we do things, but we've taken players from all over the league.
Yes.
Losing teams, winning teams, teams have never, like, rookies. And I think it's like, you know, the thing in our space, which another thing that drives me nuts, we need people in the charter space who've worked at, you know, high-performing charter schools. You know how many high-performing charter schools there are out there?
Like 50 people. Like, I don't understand. We're just going to play carousel and merry-go-round musical chairs.
It's
for an entire career.
It's the stupidest shit that I ever read on a job description in charter management orgs. And it's so common amongst all the big players.
Right.
And they get defensive about it. It's like, well, we know, culturally speaking, we've seen people struggle. I'm like, no, that's
struggling. Did you make a pathway for folks to not struggle? Did you make sure that you had things in their onboarding and their continued, on-ramping to make sure that they actually learned what they needed to learn? Did they have time to see it, to hear it, and to try it? Like,
right.
You know, so I question all of that stuff because I'm just kind of like,
yeah. It's funny because I've had conversations with talent folks at these places, and I've challenged those assumptions. And unfortunately, it doesn't often come from them. It comes higher up, comes from the CEO, comes from the founder, comes from other folks, right? It's just these things are so embedded of, well, we are the best. People need to show themselves to us. They can join our team. Well, what ends up happening, the dirty secret for many of these orgs is that they struggle with retention. They struggle with attracting people. And then it then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of we struggle to find people because no one can meet our bar. So we're selective.
Exactly. And selecting, you're opting out is what I want to say, you know?
It's like the dumbest thing that I hear, right? When when orgs have roles out, I've heard of orgs who remain nameless, like they've had roles out for like 2 or 3 years. That makes no sense.
For that person to be born, they're in a lab somewhere being hatched. I mean, like, that's just what it is.
You know, at some level, it really then becomes, I believe strongly, after anywhere from like 6 to 9 months, it's definitely not the candidate pool. It's the org. How have you scoped the job? How have you brought people through the process?
Absolutely.
And I just think that's a harder examination. I found that search work is a really good lens. And this is also calling out everyone in the search in our space.
Yes.
We all need to be better at having equity conversations with clients, right? There's a handful of us, I think, I'm not certainly great at it by any stretch of the imagination, right? I will call out someone like Efi, I think examines it really well with their team and her clients, right? But many other search firms in our space
don't even address it.
Cowards about it. They're
Absolutely.
cowards.
And there's some folks that I won't name that I won't even work with.
They get paid. It's disgusting. Yeah. Disgusting. And now this is on YouTube.
It's true. I'm like,
I ain't never gonna get another email from them again.
Listen, I wrote this post. I haven't published it yet, but it's going up on the Secret Lives that says I'm gonna be completely unhireable after this. It's just like the reality is, as somebody who has spent most of my career being recruited, which is an honor to me because it's a whole different.
Right. Oh yeah.
Rigmarole than when you got to submit your resume 11 million times. I haven't had to do that most of my career.
Right.
When I decided to step into consulting full time for good, it was after like my last stint in a search where I was like, what kind of frackle-knackle foolishness is this going on? And I start to ask the really hard questions up front, and that made folks uncomfortable. Oh, you want me to do what with this pipeline? Well, what is the factor, fundraising talk, y'all. What does the factor pipeline look like? And how long has it been this way? And who created it? And how would you know that it's effective? Or don't ask that as a candidate. Because you want me to come in and run it, but you don't want me to ask any questions about how it came to be. And then when I come in and say, this is foolishness. This is going to take us 2 years to get this right. Oh,
it's almost like, you want someone, you want to hire the doctor. This is going back to the 600-pound TLC show. The person undergoing weight loss asks all these questions to that one doctor everyone goes to in Houston. And he goes, what? Why
are you asking? Haven't you seen my results? I have 37,000 patients.
Like, you got to lose 30 pounds in a month. Go. Like, you will die if I put you on the table and have the surgery. And it just, like, look, it's a lot more complicated, I think. When you watch shows like Hoarders, you see things like that, right? What's happening in us, like, mentally can often manifest itself physically. Extremes like people hoarding.
Yeah.
It's mental illness, right? I would argue that a lot of folks over time, not maybe immediately, right? Because there's probably some big hereditary stuff that goes on with folks who put on more weight than others. But over time, it ends up become more of a mental barrier, right?
Absolutely.
Of building excuses, building a culture around them with families that cook the food they should not be eating.
Exactly.
Make sure they never have to get up. Like, it becomes self-fulfilling, right? Because I think what happens is people start to pity you.
And they're like, well, since we're here.
And the least that we need in American society is to pity our most vulnerable. That never helps anybody, right?
Absolutely never.
From not a deficit lens, but there's a lot of strength and resilience for folks that are in those communities. And how do we build folks up, knowing that we have lots of structural issues and other things going on, right? But at some level, right, I would like to believe we chip away at this stuff, right?
But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to see it, is what I'll say, And
for sure. Yeah.
And I say that particularly in the work that you do, I've only been, to this day, I've been a participant in it, right? Like, I'm the one that, like, on the receiving end of the call, I have to reach out. And it was so important for me over the course of my career to, like, really build relationships with really amazing, now everybody not a shepherd like you now. Some folks have some different titles, I will call them.
Right.
Names, all right. But, in order to be able to build relationships with folks and be able to position yourself and be able to say, like, here's what the story is. How are you actually going to be working for me? I know you have that client and they're paying you. I'm not. But in order for us to match up well, like, how are we framing this? What are we able to say? What are you helping your clients to see? If in fact they truly are looking at it, in my case, I'm bringing a leader of color on team. Why? What's the driver that's doing that? Because somebody said so, because it's about time, because it looks crazy, because we deeply believe it's necessary. Like, what is the it? And I think that whenever I would ask that many questions, it'd be like, whoop, whoop, red flag, Kishshana's a feisty one, and I think that that to me also felt like a challenge. It feels like a challenge that candidates might have when they're trying to have these conversations. So I think that's something that we just have to be willing to have the conversation about. You know? So what are you working on now? Because I know you and I could talk all day. Listen, y'all, I think I'm already have to just split this whole thing up because Ron has dropped so many nuggets. I was like, how many nuggets can Ron drop in an hour? I mean, so many.
36.
Like, literally, you're like, It's going to be like The Bomb with Ron Rapatalo. Like, that's what it is. So what are you working on now?
Boy, there's a couple of things. So I've got the usual rave searches going on through, both clients I've taken on independently. So some senior instructional leadership searches to, senior level nonprofit searches to senior level just nonprofit searches. So I've got an array of that. If anybody ever wants to hit me up on what those are, just hit me up on LinkedIn.
Info's below.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
I will talk to anybody and everybody who's interested in needing career help or just wanting a connection or wanting advice, right? I hold myself to that standard pretty high. So that's the executive search side of my business. The career coaching, I coach a couple of clients here and there. Folks usually come to me strongly through word of mouth, right? It's usually someone most times, and it almost feels like, I'm not a trained therapist. I would never put that out there, right? But a lot of times I think the reason why people often work with me as a career coach is because I bring an empathy lens to the work that's just different than, hey, I'm going to help you get a job. Here's the mechanics and technical aspects to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I really help people unpack what may be going on that's preventing them from either searching for a job or how they're searching for a job or how they're in a process, and allowing them to see things a bit more clearly.
Totally. I love that.
That's the career coaching I love to do most, right? Is really helping people unpack those things, right? Because once again, you can Google networking advice. You can Google how, I'm not going to tell you nothing substantially different than what you do.
I tell the clients all the time, but I think that the joy in and one of the reasons why I know we're so simpatico, you can offer these types of things to folks, and it's about that ability to connect. And also to be able to deliver on, and sometimes I think interpreting the stuff you could Google, because just because you can Google how to do paleo doesn't mean that you actually know how to institute it in your household when you have little ones who are like, paleo who? Or when you have a husband or a wife or a partner who's like, what is this foolishness? I'm vegan. Or when you know what I mean? For sure. You can't just, you can see it and you can see the what, and you might be able to see a little bit of the why, but the how is your special sauce. And that's what I think is so important.
Yeah.
So important. When I love that.
Yeah. So two other things that I also do in the range of the Rapatalo Group LLC world. I do men's personal styling. I'm a consultant for a luxury menswear company called J. Hilburn. So made to measure suits, custom dress shirts, casual clothes. We started a golfing line this spring.
That is so awesome.
Lawn shoes, Allen Edmonds.
Really I have so many people to send to you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And ideally, I would take care of guys if they're local to the New York City area. But, if a guy wants to venture with me in doing it, I can style a guy virtually and measure a guy virtually.
I love that.
So, I'm rocking the clothing. This is actually J. Hilburn polo I'm wearing right now. I rock the gear. I love it that much. And
I love that.
For me, wearing good clothing is just really about building confidence. It's
absolutely.
Really simply put. It's helping me be more confident, right? We don't live in a society where you could be naked.
Right. We don't. And even if folks will still be like, about these leaves though.
Right.
About these branches. Where are the branches? That's just a matter of fact. I just love that you have that is amazing. So that was the one more thing, and then one more thing is missing. You said two more things.
I teach group fitness training classes. I teach at a studio in downtown Jersey City called Crag. It is a Versa Climber studio. I teach on weekends, Saturday and Sunday, 9:30 and 10:20 a.m. Cragfit, CRAGFIT.com. First class is always free. I teach a class called the Kitchen Sink. It's 40 minutes, 30 minutes on and off the climber, 10 minutes of stretching. If you want a class that will put you on the road to being in shape faster than not, with support, with good technique, good music, and good instruction from moi, come check me out in downtown Jersey City.
Is there parking? Because I've been to downtown Jersey City. My old boss.
You're going to have to probably get in the garage on a weekend. It's a little cray-cray on weekend.
Right. I was like, my former boss is
better taking the path on the weekend.
Yeah. That is awesome. Awesome. You are just so amazing, and actually just shows, it just encourages me, and it should encourage all of you all who have been listening and been watching, that you can actually have a full life. And a full life does not mean that you have to be racing on the hamster wheel of busy. You can actually craft a life, whether you are working for yourself like Ron and I do, or you are working for an institution, an organization, or a business, but you can make the space to be your best self, and work is a part of that. It doesn't have to be all of that. And so I just think that that to me just feels like so inspirational. Nugget number 55, like just a takeaway, but just how you are, like that's something that's so amazing. Ron, listen, you and I have to do this again because you named like 5 topics we just need to jump into. I am so excited to have had you on the show. Everyone, all of our deets are below. Please make sure that you connect with Ron. Ron, you on LinkedIn, and where else do you hang out? Is LinkedIn your main jam?
You on Facebook? My Instagram tag is Phenomeron because I'm
yes, I totally don't follow you. I'm going to follow you now. Oh my gosh. Yes. And so I love it. So Ron Rapatalo, I am Kishshana Palmer, CEO and founder of Kishshana & Co. You can catch me on all social below at Fundiva. We both would love to connect with you. Please subscribe. Make sure you share this with all of your business buddies, your friend, your nonprofit, booze, all the things. Folks need to hear what we have to say, and let us know what else you want to hear about, and we will talk soon.